Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and acknowledge three things before we get this video started. Number one, I am in my bedroom, and this bedroom is not perfectly clean, okay? And I just say that because right there, you may not have noticed it until I pointed it out, but we got a whole bunch of stuff on the couch. So apologies in advance. Number two, if you're watching this video, there's one of two things that you are. Number one, you're a client of mine at Foundry Health and Performance, or you are finding this video randomly on YouTube or through somebody sending it to you. If you're either one of those people, this video is for you. I may be directly addressing my clientele in the way that I speak, but please understand this video can still be of value to anybody who watches. With that being said, the topic of today is progressive overload. I have some notes here in the background on my laptop that are going to help me cover a few different things. They're organized, but I'm probably going to riff, so let's jump into it. Most people in the gym do not understand what progressive overload is. And if you're training with me or you're watching my content, a common topic I'm bringing up is the need for progressive overload. So first, let's address what it is. First, we need to understand that muscle only grows when it's exposed to mechanical tension and exposed to mechanical tension over time and enough mechanical tension. We're not going to jump too deep into what mechanical tension is, but if you want to do a quick Perplexity, AI, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude research, you can figure out what that is in a few short steps, explained to you in a way that you understand best. So mechanical tension is needed. But most of the time, people are utilizing the same workouts and the same weights for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and months and months and months and years and years and years, and they don't even realize it. Number one, because they're not tracking what weights they're using. Number two, because they don't understand that they need to continuously make some type of progress through progressive overload. Now, this can be done in a multitude of different ways. I'm going to read off this list for you so we keep it simple. You can progressively overload by utilizing load. So overloading load would look something like this. Week 1, 3 sets of 10 of dumbbell curls. Week 2, 3 sets of 10 with dumbbell curls. Week 3, 3 sets of 10 with dumbbell curls. Week 4, 3 sets of 10 with dumbbell curls. Now the only thing that would change is each week we would try to increase our weight by 2.5 to 5 pounds. So if week 1 we do 3 sets of 10 of dumbbell curls at 50 pounds, then week 2 we would aim for 52.5. And if we can't complete all 3 sets of 10, then we would stay at 52.5 until we could, and then we would move on and go to 55 at 3 sets of 10. And if we can do that, 3 sets of 10, then the next week we would try 57.5. Now, I give the example of week 1 through 4 and linear progression, meaning every week we jump up by 2.5 or 5 pounds. For some people, that would work if you're an early beginner, you're very new to the gym, but for most people, it's not going to happen exactly like that. So it may happen like the example I gave. 3 sets of 10 at 55 pounds week 1, 3 sets of, and you're able to do all 3 sets. So the next week you move up to 60 pounds of 3 sets of 10. Maybe set 1 you get 3 sets of, you get a set of 10, set 2 you get a set of 9, and set 3 you get a set of 8 at that new weight of 60 pounds. But you're not going to progress until progress in weight or overload the weight until you can do 3 sets of 10 at that weight. Say in 2 weeks, so in week 4, you're able to do 3 sets of 10 at 60 pounds. Then in week 5, you would aim for 65 or 62.5 and repeat that cycle over and over again. That is one way of increasing or progressively overloading utilizing load, aka an increase in weight. Now another option is increasing the reps. So let's use dumbbell curls again. Dumbbell curls at 55 pounds, 3 sets of 10 in week 1. In week 2, you attempt to do 3 sets of 12 with 55 pounds. If you're able to complete that for all 3 sets of 12, then in week 3, you try 3 sets of 15 with 55 pounds. If in week 3 you do set 1, 15 reps, set 2, 12 reps, set 3, 9 reps, then you would stay at 55 pounds going into the next week until you can complete 3 sets of 15 at 55 pounds. in which case you would move up the reps again, add more reps, try 16 reps, so on and so forth. Now, there is a point where there's diminishing returns, so I always recommend people stay anywhere between 3 sets of 8 and 15, or not necessarily 3 sets of 8, but 8 and 15 reps if your goal is hypertrophy or maintaining the current level of muscle mass you have. If you're looking to increase strength, then staying anywhere between sets of 5 to 8 reps. And as soon as you're able to hit 8 reps, start back over with a heavier load at 5 reps and then progress in the reps. 1 week at 5 reps, then the next week at 6 reps, 7 reps, 8 reps. Once you can do that, increase the weight. So you can each week progressively overload by increasing the total amount of reps or the total amount of sets. So maybe you stay at 10 reps always, but you do 2 sets the first week at 55 pounds, then 3 sets the second week, and then 4 sets the third week. Again, I'm giving you examples of what's called linear progression. It may not always be that linear and straightforward, but you get the idea. You're either increasing load, you're increasing reps, or you're increasing sets. Those are the 3 primary drivers of progressive overload, or variables that you could utilize. But other examples that are typically overlooked are range of motion, proximity to failure, and training density. I'm going to cover range of motion and proximity to failure. We'll leave training density for another day. So range of motion. If I have somebody doing a front-loaded goblet squat, so you're holding onto a kettlebell, 35 pounds, 3 sets of 10, and it's really challenging them and it's a good stimulus, but maybe they don't feel so safe increasing the weight, or they're not comfortable with increasing the load. Maybe it's a mindset thing, but we're trying to figure out ways to progressively overload without creating a sense of fear or uncomfortability with the client. Maybe I'll challenge them to increase their range of motion. So maybe initially I have them squatting to a 24-inch box, and then I have them squatting to a 20-inch box, and then I have them squatting to a 16-inch box, and then a 12-inch box, and then eventually I have them doing full range of motion, or whatever full range of motion looks like for them. So each of those decreases in the height of the box, and with the same load, same rep count, but increasing the range of motion, is also a version of progressively overloading, because you're having to take a load through a larger range of motion, which increases the time under tension with that load, and also challenges yourself in new ranges of motion, aka improving mobility, which is also a version of progression. So you can keep the same weights, the same reps, the same sets, but you can add more range of motion to the exercise in question, and that is another way of progressively overloading. Lastly, we're going to go proximity to failure. So listen very closely to this, because I think this is really important to understand. It's called rate of perceived exertion, or what might be referred to as RPE. You might see this in your program if you do one of my programs, or you might hear me talk about it in some of my videos or during our one-on-one sessions. But RPE is rate of perceived exertion. It's typically a scale of 1 to 10, where we're rating how much exertion or energy we perceived to have exerted, if that made sense. Sorry. So let me just give you a quick example. If I give you a 30-pound dumbbell, you do a curl for 3 sets of 10, and at the end of each set, I ask you how hard that was, 1 out of 10, and you say it was, a 6 out of 10, and then the second set you're like 6.5, and the third set you're like 7. If the next week I ask you, and maybe I gave you a heavier load, or maybe you were tired, or maybe you pushed yourself a little bit harder, and so you were like, that was like an 8 out of 10. And then the next set, a 9 out of 10. And the next set, okay, that was a 10 out of 10. Improving our proximity, or increasing our proximity to failure, or how close we get to failure, is also a version of progression, because the intensity is a little bit higher. Maybe that intensity was increased through a change in range of motion, or a change in load, or a change of reps, or a change of sets, or a change of the exercise modality. But either way, improving the proximity to failure, or increasing the proximity to failure, or getting closer to failure, is also a version of challenging yourself to force your body to adapt. At the end of the day, when we get in the gym to strength train, or when we get in the gym to do any type of cardiovascular training, or maybe we're running, the reason we add things to make it slightly more challenging or slightly more difficult is to force adaptation, so our body becomes more resilient and capable to handle the amount of stress it's being put under, whether through resistance or whether it's through just cardiovascular capacity. Either way, we're trying to force the body to adapt by providing it a new stimulus each time we train. Now, sometimes we're going to dial it back because our energy is low. Maybe we didn't get as much sleep. Maybe we have 5 kids at home and it was a really stressful day. So your coach, aka Collis, dials it back, reduces load or sets or reps to essentially reduce the intensity or the demand on your body because you're not ready for that. But over time, we are trying to progressively overload to get stronger, number one, or for some of you guys to build muscle mass, or for some of you guys to retain muscle mass, or for some of you guys to improve your cardiovascular capacity, aka make your heart muscle stronger and make it more efficient at distributing blood and oxygen to the rest of your body. So if you're in the gym and you are not intentionally figuring out how to progressively overload the exercises you're doing over time, you're likely not getting better. And if you're wondering why you're not able to do your pull-up yet, or why you haven't made any improvements in the amount of weight you can lift, or how good you feel, or how strong you feel, it's likely because you're not intentionally integrating progressive overload into your training modalities, whether you're training by yourself or with a coach that hasn't been intentionally integrating progressive overload. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment below. I'm happy to elaborate on a next video or on a following video. Or you can just take some of the concepts you heard today and utilize the new technology we call AI and explore it a little bit further so you can develop an understanding through communication that works best for you. So take this video, listen to it maybe one more time, come into our next training session with some questions, and I hope this video on progressive overload helped you today. This is Coach Collis Stutzer of Foundry Health and Performance, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. If you're interested in working with me, www.foundryhp.com.